Heyo. This is gonna be a wild one. I have no idea how wild this is gonna be, but I can feel it. So it's just one of those days. I went to bed not in the best of moods. I noticed that I was forcing myself to stay awake and aimlessly be on my phone until it hurt too much and I had to go to bed. What I meant by hurt too much was like my eyes were hurting, they were throbbing, they were aching, my head was aching, my body was exhausted, but I still kept pushing myself to aimlessly go on my phone. And I woke up not in the best of moods either. There was an incident that happened last night, kind of right a couple hours before I went to bed, and as much as I've worked on my emotional healthiness and in general healthy communication about emotions, not only with myself but with others, is that before it used to be hard to communicate emotions and feelings with others and myself, but now it's getting easier to identify and label them with myself, but then now expressing it to others is harder. And what I mean by that is the incident that happened yesterday, I immediately got like flared up, and I went quiet, and this person was talking to me about a subject I didn't want to talk about, and they kept going on and on. And to give context, it was like an anime that I haven't watched yet, and like there's just miscommunication. That person started it already when I already knew we weren't gonna watch it together, like the episodes together, but I thought we were going to start it at the same time. Anyway, I got flared up. They were telling me very vague things, nothing necessarily spoiler. Like there was no specific talk about specific scenes or anything like that, but I was still flared up. And what I did, the trash is being taken out right now by the garbage man, woman, person. Anyway, what I did was, because I had my phone in my hand and I was already interrupted, like I was doing something on my phone, and then said person is just like, hey, and then they start talking, and then I notice it's about something. I'm just like, what? No. And I show shockness, and then my immediate response was, my natural response was zoning everything out. It's a acquired skill that I obtained throughout my years of life. It comes in handy sometimes, and other times it's just, sometimes I wish I wasn't that good at it. Anyways, what I did was I immediately went to my phone. I just started scrolling. Sometimes there is no sound, sometimes there is sound, but the main thing was internally I was hurt and I was upset. And I was like, do they not realize that I'm upset and they still keep going? And then the other part of me at the same time is like, they can't read minds. Just because you notice someone's body language changes and then you take note of that and you address it, doesn't mean that everyone does that, and no one has to do that for you, you know? So that, like, upset me more, and it has nothing to do with said person. It was more of things that I needed to work on, because I clearly knew that I should have communicated how I was feeling and addressed it, but I didn't. And so right when they stopped talking and they changed the subject, I cut them off right there. I was like, I'm leaving. And so I left, and I just low-key rushed to my room, and it could from the outside, it could very much look like storming off, because I said like 3 words and then I went, and I didn't speak the whole time that they were speaking. And I just went into the room and stayed on my phone, and right then I knew, right when I got to the room, I was like, I did not handle that well at all. I didn't communicate well at all. And I think that's still piling on me. And then when I woke up the next morning from going to bed that way, just a lot of little things piling up. Like, I was half awake, half asleep, but to the outside eye, I was completely knocked out, dead asleep. And my mom walks in and she says, like, Jalissa, this, oh, make sure this, and this, really quick, and then closes the door and leaves. And I was, in my head, I was like, if I wasn't half awake, half asleep, I wouldn't have heard that. And I was just like, do people really think that someone asleep would coherently hear that and understand that, hey, like, they're asking me to do this, and I'll actually, like, comprehend that and understand that so that I can do it when I wake up? And that, there was just a lot of things. There was a lot of little things piling up, I noticed, that were flaring me up more. And I realized I was becoming, and I still am right now, super overwhelmed. And I was like, what am I overwhelmed with? And I realized that there is so much information going into my brain for the past few weeks. And I have just been using tactics that I thought were helping me, but they're really all just escapism methods. I'm just trying to escape things, but in different ways. Before, when I was younger, I would drown everything out with music. I would drown everything out when I'm writing. Other things, I don't know, maladaptive daydreaming, which we're not going to talk about that right now. That's also under the dissociation umbrella. Anyways, now what it looks like for current me, because, you know, I was just like, oh, I don't do that anymore, I'm healthier. No, it's in different ways. This, talking to myself, talking to future me, talking to a camera, has, especially since it kind of waned off of reflecting, and it's more like venting. And like I said in the beginning, there is no structure, but it has turned into an escape method for me, where it's more so of just someone I can vent to, and in a way, I feel like it's because the person that I can constantly vent to is myself. And in this way, I'm doing that without being all up in here, because I can externally do it. It's escapism. Or I don't even know the right word. Yesterday I was also thinking about how much I'm trying to do, but I can't. I was talking to my dad about jobs and how they're going to be even harder to get right now because of my limited resources. I applied practically everywhere in my area that is walking distance, and no one has gotten back to me. I can try again, for sure, but this time, now I have no phone or car, which was in itself not only convenient, but a luxury. And I was always prepared to not have those things, because I've done it before. It was more of a convenience, not a reliance, because if I totally relied on it, I wouldn't be able to do anything, which I'm able to do. A lot of things. It just makes it harder. There's just a lot of factors that I don't have time to go into, but it's just like, if I do get a job that's outside of my radius of walking, then I'm either gonna have to take public transportation or find another means to get there besides walking, maybe biking. I don't have a bike, and honestly, I hate biking on the road. It gives me anxiety. But then realize I'm gonna have to buy a bus pass, and that's a monthly fee of like $100 that I don't have because I need a job in order to pay for that. But in order to get the job, I need a bus pass to get there, and it's a lot. That on top of like calculating the fact that I would not be able to live alone unless I make a higher wage than I'm going to enter as, or I move out of a big city. And it's also one of those days where I'm eating a bomb grilled cheese sandwich on 2 different types of bread. It's honey oat and one of my favorites, which is potato bread. And it's pepper jack cheese and extra sharp cheddar. I also have this delicious ass tonkotsu bowl. It's supposed to be spicy pork, but it wasn't spicy enough, so I added the gochujang. I haven't spoke Korean in forever, and I feel like the pronunciation of that was horrendous. But it's the Korean chili paste. I added some more of that, and now it's perfect. Also, spice is supposed to be good for your immune system. Obviously, there's probably specific spices. I am digressing. Also, there's so many unprocessed emotions. I talked about it in a previous video, but I'm still having nightmares. And it's like the repeated same scenario, but in different settings, same people. And I realized, and it didn't really hit me until my friend pointed out that, hey, that was a traumatic event. And I was like, oh, it seems so regular, but it is, because I clearly have not processed it. I clearly haven't fully healed from it, which who would expect someone to heal from a super traumatic experience in just a month or so? In my dream world, where I'm supposed to be resting, I am reliving the trauma, because it keeps replaying. It's the exact scenario of that day. But now in my dream world. And it's probably because I'm avoiding addressing it in my waking life that it's like, hey, I'm still here in my dream life, you know, so that I don't forget about it. Which in a way, I guess it's helping me avoid repressing it, but at the same time, I'm in this like uncomfortable, like I'm restless and I'm irritable and I'm annoyed and I'm angry. I'm angry that this world is so infamous for crushing anyone that wants to shine their own light or to spread light and love, and that it's so difficult to break cycles. I knew it was going to be difficult. But this whole journey of being healthy is just that much more difficult when you're in an environment that isn't growing and changing and healing with you. I have to constantly remind myself that my annoyance of someone not communicating what I feel as properly communicating to me or respecting me, some people have never even thought about it in that way. And there is something that I came across that I did not realize. Let me try to think about it, because it also floored me. What is it? What? Oh! Inward reflection, inward thinking, always turning inward and thinking and trying to problem solve inwardly. Yes, that can come with some benefits of being super hyper self-aware and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you're just doing that, but you're not really changing anything, or if you are, but you're changing very little, then it's mainly being used as a way of escaping. It's an avoidant tactic. It's a way to escape the outer reality, and you're turning inward because that's a safe space. And that blew my mind, because I've been doing that since I don't know how long. And I'm really trying to figure out what my attachment style is. And I feel I need to do more research, but I think I'm anxious avoidant. I do think I'm a little bit of both, and this is not a conversation for on here. Whoop. Not about that, but in general of like always being two. Just not one. It's not that I can't pick. I don't choose, okay? I don't choose to have both. I would rather have a secure attachment, okay? I want a healthy attachment style. I don't want anxious and avoidant, but like here we are. I probably have both. And I'm not self-diagnosing, and I do not encourage self-diagnosing, because you should always get looked at by an expert professional. realizing that I'm overwhelmed, and it's probably because I also have a lot of pent-up anger. And I feel like that also happens because I have this, I'm gonna say, pride, that to be the bigger person, to be the better, to take the higher road. It's ironic because healthiness is exhausting. The maintenance of healthiness is exhausting because at first glance, you're like, you're healthy, you have nothing to worry about. Like, imagine if you're mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy, physically healthy, like you're just all types of healthy and balanced. This world naturally goes towards chaos. Everything naturally goes towards chaos. That's entropy, right? That's entropy. I haven't been in school, let alone chemistry, forever, but my point is, when you're somewhere at an extreme where, unfortunately, that's an extreme, is to be healthy, in my head, right? There's like the super unhealthy, rock bottom, even deeper, and then there's the actually really balanced and healthy. Most of us are here, right, in the middle of the bell curve for average. Or some, more leaning this way, some more leaning that way, but in general, fighting to stay on your extreme versus being pulled in, I feel like it's the same constant tug and struggle as when the waves are all being pulled in and you are trying to stay on the shoreline instead of getting pulled in by the current. It's difficult, it's exhausting. And I'm not saying I'm over here in the extreme, I'm not at all saying that. But if it's exhausting right now and I'm not even there yet, I can't imagine how exhausting it is. Because just because you're here, that doesn't mean you're surrounded by other people that are exactly in the same spot as you. And I'm not saying to cut literally everyone out of your life. I'm not saying that. Oh! There's another thing that I remembered. I'll finish up this thought and then I'll go back to that. Hopefully I don't forget. Remember. Okay. I'll finish it really quick. But people, when they see unhealthy people, right? Like where it's very apparent. Like they're at the extreme. Because in here, I think it's easy in the middle to mask it, to front it to where, oh, just because I'm laughing right now, you deem me as super healthy, which actually no. I'm struggling with this, and this, and you don't know. I can break down in the next 2 minutes. But you also wouldn't even know because I'll probably go to the bathroom in a stall that I already marked as I know no one goes there, so I can cry freely. Because it's my secret place on campus, which I did have one of those in the beginning of college. There was a specific building that I knew that it was very rare for women, at least, to be there in that bathroom. There was this huge stall. It was quiet, but not too quiet. It was secluded. It wasn't around any classrooms. It was amazing. Anyways, it is exhausting to not be healthy. But it is also, there's a different kind of exhausting when you're trying to work your way towards something healthier and better and forward moving and growth but having to constantly fight, not being pulled back. It's so many humbling experiences of realizing that yes, you've made it so far, but there's also so much more to go. And just because you're over here, say you're over here, sometimes you're gonna react as if you were over here. And that doesn't pull you all the way back over here, but like, you know, it's this constant tug and pull, and it's exhausting. Another video which I remembered, I'm so happy that I remembered, was, and I usually don't say trigger warnings just because I also don't feel like anyone watches these besides myself. But I will be briefly talking about like suicide. So if you don't want to hear about that, you can fast forward to, I don't know, this timestamp. I'll put it right here. Hopefully. If not, this is just gonna look really weird. But yeah, I'll give you a second to scroll to that. You can't click on it. I don't know how to do that just yet, but you gotta scroll to this. Anyway, there was this video where this person was talking about their session in therapy, and she was telling her therapist, oh my gosh, my food's getting cold. My noodles are getting soggy. Oh, so good. I can't talk and eat. Sorry, that was rude. I can't talk and eat. My friend pointed this out, where when we're eating and talking, I would always, and then I would never put the bite in my mouth. I digress. So this person was talking about, with her therapist. With their therapist, because I don't know how they identify. Anyways, this person was talking to their therapist, and they were saying to them, yeah, I don't have any suicidal thoughts. I don't want to commit suicide. But sometimes I just dream, you know, about like, or daydream, even regular dream. Anyways, they were saying that they are fantasizing about just dropping everything, cutting all connections off to everyone that they know, and moving somewhere to a country that no one knows them, shaving their head, you know, having a full transformation, just becoming someone new. Different hair, different name, different everything. No connections to anyone. And when she was talking, I was like, oh, I have definitely thought about that before. Definitely. Like, it seems so freeing. So freeing to just restart, to reset. And their therapist said to them, what prevents you from committing suicide? And they were like, my friends and family, my loved ones. You know, I don't want to leave them behind or hurt them or do anything like that. And the therapist said to them, along the lines of, don't you think that you fantasizing about cutting off all connections to everyone you know and love and starting over is one, your way of committing suicide without committing suicide, and two, this is your, like, I forgot how she worded it, maybe the therapist, something about like their intrusive thoughts and stuff like that. It's basically their thoughts telling them to cut off everything that is keeping them here on this earth so that they can be alone and more vulnerable, so that it is easier for them to commit suicide. Because in my head, I was like, if I was able to restart and just do everything over, I don't know about right now, but like back then, I was like, I would have done it in a second. And you would think that it would lead to something happier because you're resetting, but now you have nothing grounding you, nothing holding you here. In the case of the patient, right? Then there would be no reason to stop the act. And that's why there's also this thing called like suicide euphoria, something along those lines, where it's when someone is planning the day that they're going to do it. So then they start getting euphoric for a period of time. They're hanging out with a bunch of people. All of a sudden they're going out, they're having a great time, they're giving away a bunch of gifts, they're probably seen as like, wow, this person has really turned their life around just like that. They're super happy, they're laughing, they're going out, they're socializing, they're gift giving, they're being so generous. And there's so many records that happening right before they commit suicide. And I feel like it's tied to that, of this, like, I finally get to let go, I finally get to cut everything off and leave. And that was a crazy realization. Because also here, my dad was talking to me and he's like, I think it's a sign that like you should do YouTube or something like that, which it's weird that he doesn't know already that I do this, but I also don't feel comfortable talking about it necessarily. Like, this is public and I know that he could potentially find it, but excuse me, going out of my way to announce it has never been something in my interest. Because this ended up being more so of a growth tool for myself. Not really to grow the channel, but to grow myself. It would be great if I could make money off of YouTube. But that, ultimately, I thought that was my goal, but it turned out to be different. And I'm so glad I started this. That's not the case, and my whole point about that is the amount of I created my own safe space on here, even though it's public and potentially strangers can hear my business. In general, I'm still careful about some of the stuff that I say on here and try to, anyway. But I created a safe space to essentially talk to myself, to refer back to myself. And I think that also is tied back to this fear of being invalidated and rejection in general. And I also feel like that's probably what some, like, not innately, I wasn't born with it. What I was conditioned to have a response as was, if I'm feeling something, especially negative, I keep it to myself and I process it on my own. Because if I express it, it will be shut down immediately. And things have gotten better. But in general, that's still, when I get really flared up, that's my default. And I'm trying hard not to have that. Because I want to be good at communicating in my relationships. But it's also very difficult to unlearn things and relearn, or in general learn because you haven't learned it before. Unlearn, and then the old ways, and like learning new healthy ways. It's always an uphill battle. And I'll end it on this last topic that I was talking about with my dad the other day. He was like, so, like, if you do YouTube, seriously, what would be your niche or niche? However you say it. I like niche because it sounds like quiche and I like food. And I was like, you know what? I don't know. I've thought about this a lot. And there's this thing where I'm like, I know I have so much to offer this world. But at the same time, I feel like I don't have anything. And I'm not saying that in like a fishing kind of way, but my dad was like, you can do tutorials. I was like, what would I do tutorials on? I don't have things that I'm particularly comfortable with doing tutorials on. I've tried doing super deep talks, like where, you know, I plan out a subject and I talk about it and I plan to like navigate through it or just educate about it, and that was so emotionally taxing on me, especially not really having ways where I can continuously replenish my cup. I tried that in the beginning and that didn't work. It's fine, trial and error. And maybe this is tied to commitment issues too, but I really don't like to be tied to only one thing. I like the freedom of doing whatever I want on my channel. And maybe I can make a different one once I find my set niche. But I honestly can't think of anything. I'm not really that good at anything. And another video that I found was this person telling the camera, which is ultimately them, but also whoever wants to listen, is you need to stop making all these invisible rules for yourself for something. Because then when you finally go and try to achieve a goal and you fail, well, of course you failed. Because there was all these hidden rules and expectations that you put on it. And in a way, that's self-sabotage. And you need to stop self-sabotaging yourself. And every time he kept saying, you need to stop, I got flashbacks of like being talked to as a child, even now, of people constantly saying, you need to stop this, you need to stop that. And it's a pet peeve. I don't like people telling me that. Not because I can't take constructive criticism. It's kind of hard to take criticism. I don't think anyone likes to take criticism, but I can do that in a constructive way. But most of the times, that sentence of, you need to stop, usually follows with, more so opinionated insults than constructive criticism. It's more so of like, you need to stop eating that way because you're gonna gain weight, or you need to stop doing your eyeliner that way, it's too thick. You need to stop wearing your shirt like that, it looks weird. And I'm just like, to you. And then I keep doing what I'm doing because it makes me feel happy and comfortable. You need to stop putting invisible rules and expectations on goals and then act surprised when you don't do so high. Because you're weighing yourself down, you're chaining yourself down. And I knew that, and I'm better at not doing that, but there's a lot. And right now, realizing that I'm not even particularly really good at one thing. I don't mind in itself, to be honest. But when it comes to moving forward in life in general, especially if I want to try to be monetized on here, I don't know why my voice is going out. It's probably saying to stop talking because it's already 41 minutes. And my food's getting cold. I don't have something big to offer. Some people use their humor and they get monetized, and that's just them being themselves. I feel like my type of humor is a weird mixture of acquired taste and just no. Funny videos I don't think are my forte, and as much as that hurt me, especially since younger me, always that was one of the traits I prided myself in, was being funny. That was also probably a big, way of like me masking a lot of it. We're not getting into that. What I mean is I don't know. Like, all these amazing creators that I watch, they have that one thing that they constantly can give because it's them. It's like a part of them. But what part of me? I literally said in my head, what part of me is good enough to share? Which, in general, I know I'm good enough. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just don't know what part of me I can share. Because I keep scooting back, but I'll come up forward a little more. There's literally, I can't think of anything. I just like doing things. I like experiencing things. I don't necessarily have to be good at it. Do I want to learn about painting? Yes, but ultimately my main goal is to be able to freely express myself while using the medium of paint. And then eventually maybe even doing mixed media, now incorporating paint. I've tried to use watercolor for the first time for a midterm. I've never used watercolor before, and I'm like, well, I really want to express something, and in my vision, this has to be done with watercolor. That is the medium. That is... I feel it, and I used it. And it was fun. It was so fun to do. Was it the best? No. So I don't know what to do. there's a lot of things that I haven't been able to experience yet, and I would love to do a series on showing everyone things that I'm doing for the first time, using acrylic paint for the first time, baking this for the first time. I don't know, but I don't have the time, the resources, or any of that. I don't want to make this an hour. I also really don't want to have to wait for an hour-long video to upload. I guess I just took advantage of the empty space right now because my parents aren't home. You can probably still hear my sister gaming in the back. Wow, there's like 7, no, it's probably like 100 of them. Oh my gosh, there's more of the parrots. There's a lot of times I wish I was just the wind and I could just go wherever, whenever, and I could even possibly be at more places than once, and I'm just there. I'm just ebbing and flowing. I can carry gifts to my loved ones' doorsteps and then at the same time go and cool someone off or warm someone up. Bring people together by, like when someone drops something and it keeps blowing away and then that ultimately leads them somewhere. Making people stay by like rushing through a tree and having these beautiful petals fall onto someone and they're just like, oh my gosh, that was a movie experience. The thing that I have going for me is my different way of thinking, how chaotic my thought process is, and how long I am able to babble. My dad said maybe you should do a podcast. Podcasts are usually episodes about specific things, and I just talk about whatever's going on right now, and that's also what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh, this is probably going, my grilled cheese. This is probably gonna be an hour, and you know what? This is fine. This will be my first 1 hour video. I'm not gonna try to control that. I was just so angry and sad. I guess too, I'm so excited about different ways I can express myself now that I'm like 22 and I actually am allowed to do that. I was... Anyway. One of my favorite things on TikTok is when the sounds change over and over and over, and they're like different. I don't know how to explain it. Like, you know the sound like, I just came here to the party for the drugs. Drugs. But, the sound was like, I just came here to the party for the knife! No! Child. Yeah, no. Truck! Honk. Like, it's different dialogue, different, like, moods, different characters, and one of my favorite things to do is switch within, seconds time between characters, and I feel like that is also tied deeply into something else, and it's also probably a coping mechanism and all that kind of stuff that we are not going to talk about right now, but that's one of my favorite things because it's so cool that you get to switch from like, it's like, which voice matches me the best? and then you get to switch between all these characters, like, oh, which Harry Potter voice matches me the best, and then you're switching between characters. And instead of pausing the video and then restarting it when a new character is every time, you know, for transition, which would be really cool. My favorite part is switching within like seconds time. Which I don't even know where that came from. I said I was gonna end this video. As much as I want life to be so simple and just admire its complexities, but not actually be in the complexities. Like, I can dip my toe in it when I feel like it, but I don't think that's possible. There needs to be this, like, limbo, because if you get too caught up in its complexities, you get overwhelmed. But if you're too much in the simplicity of life too, you can also get overwhelmed once a complexity part of it just comes on in. And I know everything is balanced, but also doesn't balance look different for everyone? And the thing is like what balance would look like for me 5 years ago was different than what it would look like for me now, or even 10 years from now. And I want to do something great. I don't want to keep doing these videos that are just me talking about my feelings, because that's ultimately helping me and even probably future self. And what else does it do? My favorite part is saying I love you at the end, because I'm saying it to myself and also whoever's watching it. If you haven't heard that, I'm happy to be able to tell that to you. But I want to do something different, and I don't know what. I want to keep the concept of this. This is the most comfortable I have ever been, just talking to the camera. This always happens. I get caught up in something, my food gets cold. I just don't know what to do. I don't want to drag this on any longer, so if you're really inclined to watch this whole thing, you can put it at the speed of 2x. Unfortunately, it only goes to 2 times the speed. But yeah, have an amazing, beautiful, wonderful day, night, wherever you're at. I want to change that soon, because sometimes you can't have a wonderful day, and that's totally valid too. Anyway, I love you.